Good morning, distinguished delegate, guests, ladies and gentlemen. It gives me a great pleasure to welcome all of you to the first session today on interesting topic for discussion, global update on energy trend towards carbon neutrality and net zero emission. It is also a privilege for me to be the chair, actually to be moderator for this session. Last week, I am member of ERC board and staff have visited to Japan. We have a chance to visit hydrogen pilot plant at Fukushima. It could be classified green hydrogen because using electricity from solar farm 20 megawatt to use for electrolyzed hydrogen. We have seen many progress, activity, and regulation toward decarbonization of energy sector supported by Japan government through various mechanisms and models. During this session, I'm ensured that we will have comprehensive update, trend, experience sharing from our speaker. Today, we are honored to have three distinguished speakers from three international organizations. Now, I would like to introduce our speaker. First, we have Dr. Isaac Portugal, energy analyst from IEA and also RITA, Regulatory Energy Transition Accelerator. I think this is a new organization launched 2021. Dr. Rosas has extensive expertise in power system, electricity market, and policy making in driving the transformation of energy system worldwide. Please give a big applause to Dr. Isaac. I know you may leave earlier after presentation. You have to join the other forum at the area. After that, we have Mr. Jia Tang from World Bank. He is practice manager for East Asia and Pacific Energy Global Practice in charge of Bank Energy Program covering 26 countries in East Asia and the Pacific region. Before joining the World Bank, he worked for 15 years on China Three-Gorges Dam project. Please welcome Mr. Chen. And last but not least, we honor to have Dr. Maya. She is Commissioner at Georgia National Energy and Water Supply Commissioner for 6-year term. Now she is working at Energy Regulator Regional Association, ERA, serving as chairperson, and also senior advisor to share on strategic issue, Georgian National Energy and Water Supply Regulatory Commission at Georgia. Please welcome. And now I give the floor to Dr. Isaac, please.
Thanks very much. So I want to today to start the talk today. My talk, it's about precisely the RETA, the Regulatory Energy Transition Accelerator, which is an initiative that started in 2021 on the sides of COP26 in Glasgow. So the way I want to structure my talk today is talk about the challenge, why RETA was created, how we think we can address the challenge, some of the projects of RETA, and of course then an invitation at last to join us and join our community in addressing these challenges. First, the challenge. I'm not going to dwell too much on this because we heard from the permanent secretary addressing this. there's the climate change is what is driving us and what is getting us here first. And we have seen very important heat waves in Thailand and in the region that happened just last month. And it's not only in this region. In Mexico, where I'm from, there was a power outage last week, just because of the heat waves and the very intense electricity demand that happened. And it's not only here. South America is facing challenges with hydropower because of continuous droughts. So climate change is happening, and it's happening all over the world. And it is one of the challenges that we have to face. So the scale of the challenge. Global renewable energies were about almost 4,000 gigawatts in 2022. But what we want to do, if we want to keep the 1.5 degrees scenario alive, 1.5 degrees of global temperature increase, we need to triple that capacity. Of course, we not only have to triple that capacity, we want to make sure that the electricity, that this capacity is on the systems, reaches the demand, which is another topic. On the right-hand side here on the slide, I have just one of the curves that we have on the scenario, net zero scenario, 2050. And this is what we are expecting to cut from developing economies. Of course, developing economies, such as a lot of economies in Latin America and Southeast Asia, is not only the challenge of the transition towards a cleaner power systems, or cleaner energy systems, it's also facing the increase in demand. So the challenge is even higher. And you can see that if we want to keep the 1.5 alive, emissions have to peak before 2030. And in energy systems terms, this is tomorrow. So there is no time to waste. Just the pace of the challenge. Here I'm showing 4 trends: solar PV, electric car sales, residential heat pumps, and battery storage. All show very dramatic increases over these years. So the challenge is, how do we bring this together? Are our institutions ready to bring this together? Not only the technologies, but our institutions, our ministries, our regulators. That's why created, so just very briefly, the nature of the challenge. You know, we're changing the technology. It's not one-by-one substitution to a big power plant that is burning coal, to now a big power plant that is running on solar or wind. Is where we all know that the creation of these prosumers is producers and consumers, and it's more decentralized. There is low inertia. There are a lot of technical problems with that, multiple actors, and the power systems are changing. So how can we address all these challenges? As I said, RETA was launched on the sides of COP26. This was an initiative by Ofgem, the British regulator, along with the IEA, IRENA, and the World Bank. It launched with 20 participants, 20 regulators. Now we have about 58 regulators, including ERA, including Thailand, Regulatory Commission. We have participants from all over the globe, and of course, we would like to have even more. Delivery partners, the delivery partners, the IEA, ARENA, the World Bank, as I mentioned, Regulatory Assistance Project, RMI, among others. So what are the goals of RETA? RETA wants basically five things to tackle: create and boost the creation of flexible and renewable-based power systems, create regulatory frameworks to deliver energy transition, adapt our network plannings, increase the regional interconnection, and last but not least, make sure that the energy transition is fair and inclusive. so that benefits are for all. How are we doing that? Through organizing workshops, peer-to-peer exchanges, technical assistance, and creating knowledge products. What are some of our projects? Just in March this year, we had a roundtable in Paris, where we were very grateful to receive Thailand and other colleagues from the region. Two main works were presented by RAP, the decarbonization mandates, and by the IEA, regional interconnections. But also, it was a session where we hosted ideas on what projects, what is important for regulators, because it's not only what we think, but it's what the regulators are facing and what they think is important. And based on these discussions, we created the work plan. It's public. I'm going to go very quickly on that. We have very different topics from digitalization, technical assistance and digitalization, battery storage, virtual power plants, to market design and carbon pricing, transmission supplies and mini grids, and also in regional interconnection, aligning grid codes, transmission charges, and as I said, in fair and inclusive transition, we have clean cooking, which is really important, and small island developing states. I'm going to leave it there. I was a bit quick, but I'll leave it there if there's any question. But please discover the platform. The website is there, and contact me if you want to discuss further, or contact us at this email. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Dr. Isaac. You mentioned many challenges in the transition period, and RETA is the one of the key partner to support to decarbonization. And if you have any question for him, please, because he have to leave earlier. Okay. After our presentation, we would have about 10 minutes for Q&A session. Now, I would like to invite Mr. Jia Tang for your presentation. You have a floor.
Okay, thank you, and thank you for ERC to invite me to join this forum. Then I'm going to talk a little bit as complementary on what Dr. Isaac talked about. What are the challenges globally where we are right now, and how the World Bank is working on the net zero agenda in the region. So I'm going to talk basically 3 parts of here, right? So if you look at last year, you see the CO2 emission is increasing, particularly due to the digitization, electrification in the world, right, going through. So the electricity consumption as well as coal consumption, CO2 emission is in the rising star. Then particularly if we focus on East Asia region, right, then China, Vietnam, Indonesia, and leading the electricity growth as well. But on the other side, you see that the relative electricity consumption is much lower than the OECD countries. So where the electricity is growing very fast, still there's a huge room for further increase of electricity growth in this region. And the majority of the power is generated from coal. Then if you look at the commitment on NDC, majority of the country in East Asia region has committed net zero around 2050. There are 8 countries not committed yet, but the majority is around 2050. Then at COP28, right, we all heard about that we need to triple the renewable energy and double the energy efficiency. But where we are right now on this. So if the World Bank has carried out a study, right, on the climate change, we call it climate change diagnostic study among all the 4 major countries. The left side representing China, where 52% of the world coal consumption are happening in China. And the rest of 3 countries are taking another 10%. So in total, about 58% to 60% of the coal consumption are happening in these 4 countries in the world. So if you want to tackle the coal consumption in this country, then it will be a huge challenge on the climate change side. The upper curve representing the currently announced government policy, how they are going to manage the energy transition, still far away from the 1.5 degree. So the lower curve represents a World Bank study on if we want to accelerate the CO2 emission reduction, then the pathway of CO2 can follow a lower curve, right? Then what needs to happen make this lower, shifting from the government policy to the lower curve of accelerated decarbonization? Then there's a huge need of course, increase the renewable energy on this side. That's according to our projection, right? For renewable energy increase in these 4 countries, to shifting the curve from the upper policy curve to the accelerated curve. That's how the renewable energy need to go. This is more or less consistent with the 3 times renewable energy efficiency target of the COP28. That's an analytical work done by the World Bank in 2002, 2003. Then if you look at the renewable energy share, globally there is a chance for share of renewable energy increase and the coal generation share decrease. There is a good opportunity to achieve this. So the investment on the renewable continues to increase, right? So I will skip this a little bit and talk it later on. The key message is really, how do you really, the cost factor of renewable energy is really critical. And now we see that a major technology, right? Solar PV and the solar heat, right? Wind, onshore wind and offshore wind are reaching or closely to reach, more competitive than fossil fuel. So I don't know what is that. If you look at the solar PV project, right? Largely you see that in some of the countries, they even achieved below 2 US cents per kilowatt hour. In this region, right, so 3 cents per kilowatt hour is largely achieved, but very popularly, like in China and India, right, it's around the 4 US cents per kilowatt hour. Then if you look at the PV plus battery, right, largely the cost increased from 3 cents now to 3.8 cents, right, relatively in this region. And if you see offshore wind and onshore wind, right, now the prevailing price is really also about the 3 US cents, even below 3 US cents for onshore, about 3 to 3.5 US cents offshore happening in this region. So this is the price we are talking about. Generally, the key message is that the price of renewable energy continues to go down in this region, and it's become competitive and even more competitive than alternative fossil fuel for power generation. Then how the renewable energy goes, I used one of the IEA slides, right? So that's from last year to this year, you see on the solar and wind, right? Major increase about 80 to 60% increasing in globally. But is that consistent with the 3 times? Perhaps a lot, right? If you look at what is going on divided by region, it is not promising. Look at achieving 3 times of renewable. We need to accelerate. But the majority part, if you look at, right, is really on China. Given your earlier slide talking about going from 4,000 gigawatt, right, but if you look at China, last year China added 300 gigawatt of solar and wind, last year. And this year, in the first quarter, by March 2024, China added about 70 gigawatt, still in the range of around 300 gigawatt per year, solar and wind in China. If China keep going on this pace, according to our study, and then by 2030, China may achieve, tripling the renewable energy capacity in the country. And this is aligned with 1.5 degree. And also, if China keep this pace going on, there is no need even for adding any new coal power capacity in China to meet the fast-growing electricity demand. So this is looking promising, at least in one of the largest emitter in the world, right? This is looking promising. So this is the number what I just talking about, right? 300 gigawatt last year, and the first quarter this year, another 70 gigawatt, added, in the capacity in the China power system. And also, largely, you see the battery storage and pump storage capacity is also going on to couple with the integration of those renewable energy happening in China. Then if you look at the hydrogen side, we also see a trend. Right now, green hydrogen is more expensive than green hydrogen, but around by 2030, we see that green hydrogen may become even more competitive than green hydrogen. The cost of the hydrogen actually is linked with the cost of electricity. In China, in some of the area, right, they even achieved the wind power price about 1.5 US cents per kilowatt hour onshore. So that's where they're using this for green hydrogen production, then it may become competitive. Another key technology innovation happening in China is really, one of the key problems of hydrogen is really storage and transportation. But China is moving towards liquid to solid, hydrogen storage and transportation. We are seeing the technology is going on right now. Then you see low carbon hydrogen, you also need to go growing very fast. Let me escape this. Then if you look at the CCUS, right? Currently there are 43 CCUS already CCS are operational, and 33 under construction, and 488 facility under development, and also plus another 100 perhaps launched worldwide, right? But if you look at the East Asia region, so far none of the CCS project is profitable or commercially viable. It's mainly government investment on majority, I should say majority is government investment on innovations, technology, know-how, and preparation. Except China, in other regions, like in the major coal emission country in the region, you see renewable energy is not as quickly as what is happening in China, so it's quite stable. This needs to be scaled up. Then the key challenge, actually, I will skip, right? Since Dr. Issa has already talked about the challenge, we see one side is really climate change versus energy security. Second is even in these 4 countries, right, to achieve government objective, you need about $12 trillion investment by 2030 to meet the objective, shift the curve. Then at the same time, we say that the price of electricity may go up by 16% if you are moving from the upper curve to accelerate the decarbonization. So who is going to pay for the additional cost? Then there is a just transition impact on the job side, right? So I will skip on this part, we just talked about. Then I want to move on to what is how World Bank is working on this, right? Given all this challenge. So World Bank basically working with all the client countries, including Thailand, right? We're trying to first provide the technical assistance, advising government on the overall visioning and planning, what could be the potential pathway, then make assessment of what are the costs and benefits. Along with this, we support the power system planning, list the cost of power system planning, take into environment social cost. And the number 3, we also finance various projects, throughout the entire chain of the power system. At the same time, World Bank provides support on addressing the social and the economic challenges associated with the energy transition. So if you look at our investment, right? So our largely the World Bank investment majority goes to transmission network. That's what I'm talking about, the public sector investment, right? About more than 65% goes to the transmission and generation, about 23% goes to the renewable generation side, but not talking about the World Bank private arm. IFC, MIGA is also working on private sector investment on generation. Then that's a result we delivered, right? We have already financed 17 gigawatt of renewable energy, but we're looking for 153 gigawatt in the coming days by 2030. We have electrified 100 million people. We're looking for 226 more million people to be connected to electricity. And we're operating in various countries following this 4 pillars I just talked about. One of the key areas I want to mention is really now we are putting a $4 billion program on accelerating renewable energy in East Asia Pacific. And this is going to the board approval we are targeting in May and June. This $4 billion we are targeting all the East Asia countries on supporting renewable energy scale up, energy efficiency, and the transmission line for even cross-border power trade. So we are trying to talk with various countries on how to deploy this $4 billion just for renewable energy deployment in East Asia country. Then at the same time, we particularly support regional power trade. We understand that there is a various MOU signed between now with Vietnam, Singapore, and Cambodia, and also Indonesia and Singapore. Now the World Bank is putting resources behind to facilitate, try to work with the government to facilitate how to achieve those MOU signed between various countries. This is one of the key topics that my team is working on with various government regulators and utilities and ministries. Then we're also providing grant resource like a $5 million to ACE, ASEAN Center for Energy, and also $5 million grant to Pacific community supporting the energy transition. Try to also engage with the regional organization to leverage their capacity and also their capacity. So thank you for your attention. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mr. Tang. You have shown many positive signs for decarbonization in terms of policy of the government, price competitive, technology and innovation. Anyway, 4 big challenges remain: the security, financing, affordability, and just transition. And World Bank have many programs to overcome this challenge, financial support, technical assistance, and etc. Thank you very much. And the last presentation will be Dr. Maya. You have the floor, please.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, dear friends and colleagues. It is my explicit honor to make a presentation about my association, which is Energy Regulators Regional Association, and also to emphasize the global energy and carbon neutrality issue, driving innovation and regulation. Well, whatever we are doing today, this is ERA was registered 21 years ago. So the majority of the founders were rounded towards to improve the energy regulation within the region. But you will see that we have moving, and we have already moved from region to the global. Our major mission is to sophisticate the framework of the regulatory, let's say, issues in order to support private sector and government to build the bridges. Our vision is to create the ecosystem, regulatory ecosystem, so that it to be acceptable for the governors and for the utilities at the same time. Now, currently, we have 35 full members, 12 associate members. We are covering 5 continents. And I'm really very glad that yesterday I had a very good meeting, and quite soon Malaysia will join our association. How ERA is functioning, we do have 4 committees. One of them is the Electricity Markets and Economic Regulation Committee. Another is Gaseous Fuels Markets and Economic Regulation. Third one is the Customer Protection. And the fourth one is the Energy Transition, which is a crucial topic nowadays. And we all have to find the solutions in order to overcome the challenges about which my colleagues have already talked much. Well, we do provide training courses over the 20 years. So quite soon we are going to have the 22nd summer school, which is very popular among the members and not only. Also capital expenditure, CAPEX, because calculation of the tariff is always very critical for the population and for the government, not so much for the regulatory commission, but it's our responsibility. And the third one is the regulation of the renewable energy sources. How we instruct and construct our courses is that the presentations, Q&A sessions, case studies, we collect case studies among our members. And of course, we provide the opportunity to the training participants to create group work and Excel modeling, which is the testing period and the final test, in order to be firm that the participants took a knowledge from the training. As for the global climate commitments, I would like to emphasize energy-related CO emissions covered by different governments in order to achieve net zero emission plans. And you can see here what's happening in the world. So there are some areas in the world that are already managed to put everything into the law. Some are working on the policy documents. Some are just started, let's say, talking, the oral pledge, including Georgia, which country I'm representing. And there are also no pledge, let's say, situation as well. Timeline for carbon neutrality and net zero for ERA surveyed countries, 2040 carbon neutrality is given by Austria. At least the promise is given, and we see the plan, how Austria is moving to the carbon neutrality process. 2050 is Czech Republic, Hungary, Latvia, Lithuania, Poland, Thailand, and Oman. 2053, Turkey, and 2060, Ukraine. Changes in the energy landscape, global CO2 emissions by sectors. You can see that the largest drop in CO2 emissions is foreseen in the electricity sector, with global emissions falling by nearly 60% between 2020 and 2050. In the APS, and a fall in emissions of 15% in steps, despite near doubling of electricity demand. And my colleague mentioned many times that we are experiencing the demand and supply of the electricity. And here you can see that electrification and increase of electricity demand worldwide, electricity demand is set to be increased by 77%. And you can see here the period starting from 2020 up to 2050. Increase of renewable energy capacities, I absolutely share your opinion. So it's quite, and my colleague's opinion, that solar energy is becoming more and more popular. We see the installed capacity, let's say, forecast, and also the electricity generation. But hereby, I would like to emphasize that nuclear is becoming one of important issues, because we made the survey among our, let's say, member states, and it turned out that nuclear issues, once again, is becoming more and more important. So declining marginal costs and negative electricity prices, you have already talked about this, so we can see that the number of hours with negative electricity prices in day-ahead market increased significantly from 2020 to 2024, so we are on the same page in this respect. And data for 2024 only includes hours up to 2024, and you can see here the countries. What is the situation? It's a difficult and promising, let's say, but the good thing is that we see the situation and we're somehow exchanging the experience and expertise and trying to find the ways out. Further changes in the energy landscape. Other significant changes within ERA members are addressing and include phasing out gas and introduction of renewable gases and hydrogen, decarbonization, increased distributed generation, prosumers and RES communities, increased digitalization and the need for cybersecurity in energy systems, and advancement of new technologies for flexibility and demand-side management. Policy and regulatory tools driving carbon neutrality, the role of regulators. So it's our huge responsibility to bring the balance in here. Regulators can impact the transition to net zero and to carbon neutrality through various mechanisms, and we came up with these mechanisms, as you have already identified. This is market structuring, facilitating the transition from monopolistic to competitive markets in energy sector, introduction of flexibility and carbon markets, financial regulation, guiding investments towards sustainable projects and away from fossil fuels through correct price signals, economic incentives, support schemes for clean technologies, removing hidden subsidies for fossil fuels, and driving innovation, creating regulatory frameworks which support innovation. Well, current support measures for renewable energy for ERA members, we just made the survey among 14 countries and 13 answered and has deployment support schemes in place, and 12 supported prosumers and decentralized generation. You can see here the answers and I will not go into details into this, let's say, slide. And driving innovation through regulatory sandboxes, which is really very important. I would like to emphasize Austria supports research and development projects through specific network tariffs and exemptions. Moldova has different experience, pilot project to install 30,000 smart meters for electricity consumers. Mongolia is intelligent grids, energy efficiency, digitalization, tariffs, energy market design, let's say, programs. Italy, aggregation of supply and demand side and providing balancing, let's say, products. And Thailand, testing on regulation provisions for peer-to-peer energy trading, microgrids, storages, and net, let's say, billing. Thank you very much for your attention, and I'm ready to answer the questions. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Dr. Maya. Thank you for your informative and insight presentation. It gives me a lot of new idea, especially the role of regulator, because I am energy regulator as well. Okay, we have about 10 minutes for Q&A session. If you would like to have a question, please raise your hand. Our staff will give you a microphone. Yes, please.
Good morning. May I ask Mr. Chia Tang from World Bank? From the data, I understand that China has been increasing a lot, from year to year in coal development, not only in China itself, but also be a donor for coal development in other countries, particularly in Asia Pacific. So what is the World Bank concern on this issue? Thank you.
Could you please identify yourself?
วิไลพร เลี้ยวเกษมสาร former executive former energy commissioner. Thank you.
ขอบคุณครับ Yes.
Yeah. Coal capacity and the coal consumption in China is one of the core topics that are happening between the World Bank and the highest institutions, which is the think tanks to the top leaders in China. So by June, World Bank and this think tank is going to issue a report called the Green China. That will illustrate clearly the joint understanding on the coal phase out in China. So as a summary, right? First, we think if China continue this 300 gigawatt wind and solar addition from now on until 2030, World Bank pushes strongly that there is no need to build any new coal power capacity. Coal consumption for power generation can start to decrease. So that's our analytical shows. And the Chinese government authority tentatively agree on this approach, but the key argument that they put is really for an extremely short time during a year to meet the peak demand, right? Then they need a firm capacity. And just give you an example, like when I have a discussion with the government in Chongqing, one of the province, one of the municipalities, he said for 7 days, I cannot close up. I hate to build a coal power capacity, but for 7 days, if I would exhaust all my supply, and on one side, I have to cut the load, or on the other side, if I want to avoid the load shedding, I need to build a 300 megawatt coal capacity. But the demand for building those coal capacity is only for running for 7 days. So in general, right, so World Bank supporting is really, China can really scale up renewable energy at the 300 gigawatt scale per year, together with the battery storage and pump storage. In that way, you can even meet the peak demand throughout China. Then the Chinese government is really concerned about the short duration cutting. But they generally agree that the coal consumption and the operational hours of coal fleet continue to degrade. Overseas country, China already announced that clearly they will not support and financing any coal power project. If you look at the labors like Lao PDR, they have a 700 megawatt and 1,800 megawatt, 2 coal power plant, in their pipeline. One already signed the financing agreement with China. Now China stopped the financing, and they cannot build these 2 coal power plants as needed for exporting to Cambodia. My next week, I'm going to visit Napier, is looking for the alternatives of renewable energy replacing coal. for exporting, since Chinese is not financing the coal power plant in Naupila. That reflects the China's position outside, even on the Belt Road country, right? They made a very clear signal, even for the loan agreement already signed, right? They stop financing those coal power plant. Thank you.
Okay, we have enough time for second and the third question, please, if you have. The gentleman on the middle.
Hello, my name is Philip Wang from GETCO. My question is to Ms. Mia of ERRA. I noticed that in your PPT, you refer the countries in ERRA areas have the trending for decentralized power grid or the decentralization of the power generation. Did you mean the future trend of the power generation is decentralized or distribution? Or to see, did you mean the future ideal power grid is through the decentralized power generation, not from the big power plant or the big power plant base? Thank you.
Thank you very much for the question. Well, we do have the situation when we have one grid, so this is Europe, but I'm representing Caucasus region, and we actually let's say, facing lots of challenges due to the fact that we don't have this grid combination. So it means that whenever we are experiencing, let's say, shortages, and also our countries, neighboring countries are experiencing shortages, afterwards it takes too much time to inflow and outflow of the electricity. So of course we do have this market coupling, but the major challenge, whatever is happening in the emerging markets, is that every country is in the different, let's say, development of its energy sector. So in this case, we have very good relations with Turkey, just to bring as an example, Armenia, Azerbaijan, but we are facing some challenges with Russia, although we are importing electricity from Russia. So my personal view is that to support the grids of unification, the standards of the grids, and not to make, let's say, islands, but we have such areas where we are obliged to do so in order to keep the welfare of the people living in there. Thank you for your question. Thank you.
Okay, for the last question, if you have, please raise your hand. Okay, behind.
May I ask Ms. Maya, as you mentioned earlier that you have provided the training courses for the member countries, can you give me more explanation or more example that it's important for the member countries that you provided?
Thank you very much. We manage this process in the beginning of every year. We make these surveys among our member countries. And then we identify the crucial, let's say, topics for the countries. And afterwards, we tailor our trainings to the demand. Of course, we have our own opinion and offering topics, but still we are mostly focused on the needs, whatever is existing in the member countries. Whatever benefit ERA has is that when each country experiences some challenge, they can send a question or a case. And we are providing certain, let's say, and couple of diverse answers to that, let's say, case. And they are more flexible in that situation to choose this, that, A, B, C, or D, let's say, case and example in order to tailor the concrete situation. And I'll be very honest to you, it is always much easier in that case to convince the government that the decision is right based on the international practice and the knowledge which is accumulated and disseminated among the ERA members. Thanks.
Thank you very much for your answer.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Supplement to this example, last year we have joint cooperation with ERA, ERC Thailand, to have tailor-made program for market liberalization and negotiation for the energy sector. This is one example we have joint cooperation. So now it's time to bring this session to close. I would like to thank all panelists and all questions you raised. Please give a big round of applause for two speakers, please. And thank you very much for your kind attention.